Hey everyone, I'm Diraj Goel, the founder of Get Fresh Ventures, where we help growth stage companies build the systems that take them from traction to scale. This is Growth by Design, conversations with entrepreneurs who've engineered their leap into entrepreneurship, built the systems that scale, designed leverage into their lives, and defined what success truly means to them. Today, I'm speaking with someone who sits at the intersection of healthcare, technology, and entrepreneurship. Nir Kaminer, founder and director of Medical Reviews International, known as MedRev, one of Europe's leading providers of clinical reviews and second medical opinion services. Nir has spent 2 decades in international consulting, holding senior roles at Accenture and T-Systems, before founding MedRev International in Dublin in 2017. His company delivers actionable medical intelligence to healthcare and insurance organizations, powered by a global network of clinical specialists, human intelligence. Today, MedRev operates across multiple markets, helping insurers, providers, and claims team make informed decisions, reduce risk, and improve care quality. The differentiator is simple yet profound. Real human intelligence, clinical insights from real specialists, not algorithms. Nir brings together expertise in systems integration, business development, and healthcare operations, translating complex clinical data into decision systems that balance speed with human judgment in a highly regulated industry. Nir, your journey started in international consulting and now spans healthcare systems across Europe and beyond. For anyone who hasn't followed your path, give us the short version. How does a global project manager and strategist end up building Medical Reviews International into a company redefining how healthcare decisions get made?
Thanks for having me along. Hope we can have a nice, interesting discussion for everyone with some thinkings and takeaways. Did my studies in the UK and then post MBA. Back then, the dream job of every MBA graduate was either investment banking or consulting, and I chose the consulting path, which is really great having it earlier in your career. We'll touch upon it later, but started as management consultant with Accenture, spent a good number of years, learned a lot, and then moved to the industry line, basically. So a daughter company of Deutsche Telekom, more technology outsourcing, kind of a competitor in a way to Accenture, a global organization, T-Systems, and does all kinds of outsourcing and technology-led product and services, cloud, SAP services, etc. And then I'm rather conservative, I would say, in my nature. So setting up my own company was never a dream or an aspiration. However, the opportunity landed itself and it looked good. And at that stage of my life and my career, I thought, okay, maybe it's time to jump into the cold water. And that's what I did. I had no experience as an entrepreneur. I had zero experience in healthcare, and I never set up my own company. So, despite of all these factors together, decided, okay, let's go ahead and do this. And that's when I set MedRev. We are not a technology company. It is not internet-based service with rapid growth. We are very much a B2B organization working in a highly regulated and very conservative client base, which is healthcare insurance companies that are typically big, cumbersome, slow organizations. So the pickup of new acquisitions and growth is not as high as I would like to, not as high as new technology startups, of course. But it is solid. Once we are in under the skin of our clients. This is where we are today with interesting projects, interesting exotic countries, and lots of adventures, experience, and interesting growth. So very happy with what we did so far.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
8 years ago in 2017, and you were mentioning earlier that your kids are much older. It sounds like they're graduating high school and in university.
Correct.
So you had 10-year-olds or around that age at that time when you left your career. How did you make that decision? You just mentioned that there was so many unknowns. It was known unknowns and unknown unknowns. What compelled you to make that leap?
I think the biggest thing is to have the correct home and domestic infrastructure, which translates into supporting wife with a solid job and solid stream.
Yes.
Because without this, you can take a risk like this when much earlier in your career, when you don't have children, etc. But once you have the mortgage and kids and commitment to funding and education, etc., you really need to have the domestic support for this. It's a family decision. Absolutely. It is a family decision. And I wouldn't be where I am today without my wife. And we had lots of discussions about this. I had to sell her the idea. She asked me the challenging questions. And it was, as I mentioned before, the opportunity just landed itself. And we said, okay, this is now the time to do this. I'm still young to start my own thing, but I'm not too old to change course of career if I have to. So that was kind of the trigger. I was sure, I was under the impression back in the time that it is going to be like all startups, really incredible growth. We set system, get a couple of clients, and then we sell the company. I was sure back then that this is going to be a sprint.
Mm-hmm.
So you're preparing for a sprint in terms of the training and the clothing and nutrition. You're preparing for the sprint. And then you're standing at the starting line and you realize, oops, it's actually a marathon.
Mm.
And the marathon didn't end. It is still ongoing. So that's kind of how things evolved in a way.
You know, the medical industry is notorious for latency and change, adopting new technologies. That's a tough one to jump into. We have several founders in the healthcare space as well. How old were you when you decided to leave your career and jump into entrepreneurship and build out a MedRev?
We started this company in 2017. So we moved to this company. We had different setups, etc. But I was about 40 years old when I took the plunge.
I was 39 in 2016, and I left my career 3 months before my firstborn. And my main motivation at that point was I was working 80-hour weeks running operations in high-growth startups. So those sprints, they were sprints and marathons over years. But I decided to leave my career so I could spend more time with my family, and that was my motivation. Did you start that company by yourself? Did you have a team? What was that opportunity that compelled you to say, okay, I'm going to go do this?
It's a international network. And then someone from a colleague and a family member that had a similar company in the US reached out and like wondering if this business concept that we have in the US that we just started, will it work in Europe? Reached out to someone from my school that I know was working for an insurance company. I couldn't describe to him what it is that they want to do, but he said, yeah, sure, let's talk. We had a meeting. Most of the talk the folks from the US did. And then one thing led to the next. And from a call that the purpose was to just check the market, we suddenly were in a sales and deployment call because they were very keen to, that was our first customer in the UK, our first customer actually as a whole.
So it was like the opportunity landed, you did a discovery call, and from discovery to, hey, we need this, when can you start building it? It was like that.
Exactly.
So you just like tapped right into a gold mine.
The folks in the US provided the know-how, the network, the infrastructure, of course, but I was the main man here on the ground in Europe at insurance companies. They like to work in European hours, etc.
Correct, yes.
Then we went through a couple of ownership changes. And at the end, it was to take things into formalizing a company. It was me and an American partner that moved to Europe. And that's who run the business today, the two of us.
So the two of you. And has the business changed in terms of what you offer? And maybe explain a little bit more about what you do and why the healthcare industry even needs you.
It's simple. Basically, the slogan is human intelligence and human insight, providing support for claims decision. So it is our customers are healthcare organizations that do not have a medical staff on board on a full-time basis. They may have some nurses or a family doctor, but they don't have specialists. And insurance companies on their day-to-day operations, they often need specialists' insight. So you need an oncology to give you an opinion about new drugs that came from the US. They need a radiologist to provide information about new approaches, new systems. And they need orthopedics to give a second medical opinion about the medical necessity of spine surgery, for example. So there's a whole array of services and questions that claims team are faced with on a day-to-day basis. And we have a technology, we have a nice infrastructure where they log in, they place their questions, and 24 hours later, they get a detailed specialist report. And it solves them lots of headache and pain because for them to reach out directly to specialists, it takes weeks, it is expensive, they don't necessarily have the network of specialists that they need. And this is the solution that we are giving them. And the benefits for them is the rapid access, and we help them to reduce costs significantly.
So this is on demand. Is it on a claims by claims basis, or is it more product management and planning? Where do you see the use case? Is it in the claims adjuster using the platform more, or is it the product manager coming up with the insurance offerings?
We help in some areas with product development. So we give
Mm-hmm.
clinical insight into, so the insurance, some of our clients develop products with insight from us. But one of the biggest challenges of insurance companies is overutilization.
Mm-hmm.
Overutilization, fraud, waste, and abuse. And basically, too many medical services are being prescribed that are not medically necessary. And I'm talking about in
Mm-hmm.
some areas up to 45% of, if you take in any population, if you take all the people that did knee surgery, for example, probably half of them didn't really need it. They would have been better off with physiotherapy or conservative care. And utilizing an external expert to review the case and give his opinion, actually you lower significantly the amount of unnecessary claims. And
Mm-hmm.
when each procedure, for example, in knee arthroscopy costs at least 2,000 euros or like 2,300 Canadian dollars or American dollars, where the savings are translating into millions. And this is what we do. This is the biggest value proposition, basically help them reduce claims costs by a significant amount.
That sounds like a very core element about insurance, right? So, you buy the insurance, the coverage or the utilization rate is basically the insurance company's margin, what they need to do to protect it. Insights is highly beneficial. But you mentioned also that it's been a marathon scaling the business, and there's two leaders here. How big's the organization? How much have you scaled? And then where are you seeing those challenges in scaling? You mentioned a little bit about the adoption of new technology in healthcare, but where do you really see yourself hitting a barrier with the stride of the company?
It's a long question. I can give a long session about this. But one of the things that we, in hindsight, if we would have taken the time back 5 years, maybe we should have looked more into automation, AI that came about in the last 3 years. And at a certain point, that was one of the biggest downfall of the business away. We lost one of our largest customers because our technology was not sufficiently advanced.
It wasn't that demand wasn't there. It was that
No,
you
the
had
demand
the
was there.
demand.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
The
Okay. So it
demand
was
was there.
more operational engineering and scaling of the technology.
It is actually building the right technology to start with. It is
Mm.
building the right technology. It is when the European standards for GDPR came into practice and our entire infrastructure was hosted in the US, and European companies didn't want to share personal patients' data with an American on an American infrastructure. And we kind of missed reading what is coming actually. And then we lost one of our largest customers, and then we had to make some decisions whether we basically go back to the corporate world and turn off the business, switch off the business, or we take it as an opportunity. And we did a pause, and we took lots of money and we invested in building our own technology. That was a risk because we relied on acquiring back the customers, some of the customers that we lost. So we took a pause. We invested significant amount of effort in building our own technology in our own infrastructure, which is completely compliant to European standards, GDPR, security, privacy, etc. Um, and that kind of helped us really kind of bounce back, rebuild the business with a nice steady growth of about, I would say, 25 to 35% percent a year,
That's
which is
pretty healthy.
this is not bad, absolutely, especially in kind of
Yeah.
business like we are. As I said, we're not a technology startup with 800% growth in the first year. So we are not there. Even then, this is based on kind of the last 5 years, some highs, some lows. Of course, the pandemic, less people traveled, less people suffered injuries. So there was less work, less case work for us during the pandemic,
Hmm.
significantly less. But we managed to survive this pandemic and then the technology transition to building our own set. So it was a ride. It wasn't a flat marathon. Back to the marathon analogy, it was not a flat marathon. It was mountainous marathon.
Hmm. And that's usually the case, right? Like until you get into that rhythm of continuous growth that you can scale one thing. Usually it's like an ebb and flow. You build something,
Exactly.
it transpires, and then you have to re-engineer and reinvent. Did you have to scale your team as well as you were building the re-engineering the company and around the technology, or was it mostly a technology play?
The good thing about our business is that we are running a very streamlined organization. There's no direct correlation between the volume that we have and the number of customers and the people that we need to operate the business, because most of the effort is just on the wrap up and build up the relationship and setting them up at the beginning. Lots of effort by the clinical team. But once things are on board and completed and we tune the technology to specifically their needs, as we do with all our clients, then things are running very good from an operational perspective. And this is the responsibility of my partner. And she's doing a great job in terms of the clinical operations, managing the operations team. So in that respect, it's very smooth. So the team, of course, is growing, but it is not
How big
necessarily
is the team? How many people do you have?
we now with subcontractors, etc., about 15 to 18 people, depends how you define the full-time employees.
Okay. The part of the narrative out there right now is that if you listen to Sam Altman, he talks about the one person unicorn, right? So everyone's trying to find leverage. Less humans in the engine, more revenue, more margin per employee. Are you seeing that as an opportunity, leveraging AI? You mentioned re-engineering the technology. Did you leverage any AI capabilities as well, or are you looking at those?
I would say a few months ago, maybe I could have said that we missed the train when it comes to AI.
You haven't missed it, by the way. I'm living in it every day and no one's missed it yet. Anyone who believes they've missed it, they should start now.
Missing in terms of that there are endless number of technology companies for the healthcare, specifically for the healthcare industry, that are AI driven. Value proposition is completely around the AI. I attend many conferences. We're invited to speak in endless number of conferences, and 90% of the agenda is AI. AI. We became kind of slaves to the AI concept and buzzwords, etc. So from a point of view that we felt that this is a disadvantage, we decided, okay, let's go not necessarily against the industry, but let's focus on our core rather than jumping on the AI wagon and be with everybody like everyone else. Let's concentrate on our core. We are a clinical organization, and our biggest value and differentiator is what we call real intelligence. It's not artificial. It's real intelligence. It is real people. So let's leverage on this. And of course, AI components are integrated these days as well, but it is more for efficiency perspective, and it is not the core value of what we have. It is not necessarily about high volumes and speed and efficiency, because we want our clients and every healthcare organizations not to lose the human touch. You want the decisions will be made by people, by real specialists, and not by algorithms. The algorithms can support, of course, and we do that, but the decisions and the interaction should be with a human, not with algorithm, especially when it comes to healthcare. So what we took, what was maybe as a disadvantage, we turned it into our unique proposition in the market.
And I think that that's a narrative that's sorely being missed, in that everyone's trying to replace humanity. I can speak at length about it. I spoke at a conference about it just recently, but there's just so much to humanity that still has to be conquered from an intelligence perspective, that AI is only scratching the surface.
Exactly.
It looks smart, but it is not. It is a slice of reality synthesized.
It is amazing. Endless opportunities. We love it. Wearable items and predictive and analysis, etc. But when it comes to the decision point, when a patient wants to speak to a doctor and ask for his opinion, and not texting via AI. So totally agree.
That's brilliant. I'm glad to hear that story. And it's funny. It's the more founders I talk to, the more there's a realization that the AI is enablement, not replacement. We've gone through all these technology cycles, and you've gone through a couple more than myself. And there's always the promise that it's going to replace everything and replace humans and do all these things. At one point, every company had to be mobile first. Now, if you say it, it sounds ludicrous, right? Like, it's like, hey, you're going to get windshields in this car. Well, no, you don't need to explain to me a core feature. AI, I think, is a core feature, rather than a fundamental capability. It helps you synthesize the data, but it doesn't replace the human judgment.
No, absolutely. It is an aid. It is a great support tool. But at the end, the thing is that, especially when we're back to the marathon analogy, you need to be really passionate and love what you do. And one of the things that we all enjoy doing in our company is the actual engagement that we have often with patients, and the level of appreciation we get from them when we help them with the recovery path and an expert opinion that changed what they did before, and suddenly the recovery is better with a sick kid or an old mother or a spouse. So in terms of the satisfaction levels that you're getting from the appreciation from them, we often work with the insurance companies, and sometimes we talk to the patients as well. So the credit here,
Wow.
the insurance company, which is our clients, but that what they get in return is endless amount of appreciation and customers' commitment for life, because my insurance company really helped me with my recovery via MedRev. So you need to be passionate for a long time in what you do. And I don't want AI to replace that connection, that human connection. And that's why we decided to focus on the human aspect of things and real intelligence rather than artificial one.
I love that. I love that. And on that note, I want to say thank you. But before we leave, if you don't mind me asking a couple of personal questions. You mentioned you're a dad. How many kids do you have?
Two girls.
2 daughters. And how many hours do you work a week?
When it is your own business, I think it's easier for me to count the number of hours that I'm not working, because working can also be thinking and making notes and things to do, etc. So people complain that in consulting you worked long hours, etc. That's nothing. Once you have your own baby, your own company, I mean, you always push a couple of hours on
You
Saturday
don't really
night, on
stop.
Sunday. No. When it is your own, that's the biggest difference from corporate world to your own company. The responsibility weight on your shoulders is much bigger, and you never really leave work. You have the flexibility deciding when and what you do, but in terms of the number of hours, etc., it is significantly higher than industry or consulting.
Would you ever go back to a corporate job?
I think if I were to go back, if we get an offer that we cannot refuse and we sell the business, I would like to go back to corporate world, because the learning curve when you're doing your own business is significantly bigger than anything else. And you learn so many things. Now I can be a much better corporate executive because of my startup experience in a way. So I'm not ruling it out. I'll be considering it if the time and the conditions are right, but I hope to stay and grow with my business for the foreseeable future.
Thank you so much, Nir, for your time, for your insights, for your story. Appreciate you taking the time to talk to us and share your story with other founders, especially ones that are considering taking the leap. Thank you.